So if you can hear us and you can see us, just let us know so we know that we're not talking to ourselves. Uh,
Yes, and hopefully you can hear me and see me as well.
yes, yes. And okay, so Carla, first of all, let me ask you this: where are you from? Uh-oh, it looks like she got frozen. Let me check. Let me check my connection. Hey, Carla, can you hear me? Uh-oh, and we are frozen. So let me try this. Let me try a different connection.
Okay, it's all good now.
Oh,
There
you
was a
back?
pause. There was a pause on my end, but everything's
Oh,
fine
okay.
now.
Okay, so tell me, where are you from?
So I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, moved and lived in different cities within the United States, including Atlanta and Chicago. But now I'm actually located in Medellin, Colombia, in South America. So living the life down here.
Oh, okay. So, and I know a little bit about that because you happen to be, a lot of y'all don't know, Carla happens to be married to my brother. And so my brother was smart enough to marry a woman who is an expert in yoga. And
Wow.
so I want to ask you this, how did you get into yoga? I don't know a lot of Black people who are into yoga, to be honest with you. What leads, a Black woman living a regular, normal life to become just so proficient in yoga?
Well, actually, with my yoga journey, it started off somewhat from being on a dark path, unfortunately. So when I was living in Atlanta at that time, um, according to societal expectations, I would say everything was good as far as I had a great job. I was working as an electrical engineer, living in Atlanta, had a house and all of that stuff that society would deem as successful. But at the same time, I was really struggling with anxiety that was work related, maybe even personal related. And one of my friends, after I went to go see a doctor who in the short visit had prescribed me an antidepressant, she actually recommended before I even do that, since I did not have any type of formal evaluation or anything like that, she recommended yoga. So thankfully, yoga was just something that worked for me. And I definitely think that there are cases that prescriptions work, and not knocking that or anything, but I'm just so happy that on my journey that I was able to start practicing yoga and find some holistic tools that were able to help me deal with things in my life at that time. So anxiety and just the stresses of life. I think just sometimes dealing with microaggressions that you don't even know that you're experiencing, you can build a lot of tension in your body or have a lot of other stresses that you don't even realize that you're taking on.
Interesting. Okay, so you were in a situation where you felt some anxiety that came from the stresses of life, microaggressions at work, which I know a lot of Black folks understand that. 'Cause we go through it every day in the workplace. And you said you didn't even realize that that might have been the source of the anxiety. Really, can you kind of speak?
Right, right.
Yeah, tell me more about that. Like when you talk about the microaggressions on a daily basis and things like that. Like what was that like for you? And what's been your thought process about what you were kind of going through?
Right. So at the time, the only thing I knew is how I felt in my body. So I knew that I was having all of these anxious feelings and that it was just affecting my personal and professional life. So I didn't know exactly what the root cause was, but I knew that I was having symptoms that would have me change my actions, avoiding things, avoiding meetings and outings and just everything. So it was the symptoms that led me to want to dig deeper and figure out what was going on. So at that time, starting with yoga, I just noticed without even realizing it that I was holding so much tension in my body. So I was literally just walking around during the day or in the office with my shoulders tense and just holding so much tension, almost like I was ready to fight all the time, but didn't even realize it until I started doing physical postures and started realizing that I was releasing tension, learning how to breathe. I didn't realize how much I was holding my breath during the day. And all of that eventually led to meditation, which was the place that I started to go on this journey of self-discovery and just have more awareness of what was going on in my life. So once I started meditation and was deeper into yoga is when I started to really pause and think about different things in my life and what was leading to the stress. So from being in it, I didn't really realize that work or my commute or anything like that, or even just being in a white male dominated field was causing me stress. It wasn't until I actually paused and learned how to relieve tension and breathe that I started to just think about it. I was so programmed just to keep going and always stay busy that I never even thought about it before.
Wow. Everybody who just came in, I'm talking to Carla Watkins. She happens to be my sister-in-law, but she's an expert in yoga. And she runs a great platform called yogagreenbook.com. That's yogagreenbook.com. Yogagreenbook.com has been featured in, I think it was Black Enterprise and some other publications.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So let me start, I guess, start there. So what, you've been featured in a lot of different outlets. Where are some of the places that Yoga Green Book has been discussed?
So it's been discussed in Black Enterprise, blackdoctor.org, The Root, Madame Noir, and I'm probably leaving off a couple. I'm just really thankful for the opportunities, more so just to share the power of yoga and just how powerful it can be in the Black community, especially with us disproportionately experiencing racism, physical and mental diseases, and just other things that are just disproportionately affecting our community.
I've heard Russell Simmons, advocate for yoga and meditation for like kids in the hood, stuff like that to kind of help deal with some of the tension. What do you think about that? I mean, what are your thoughts when you hear him make a recommendation like that?
I think it's a powerful thing. I think it's much needed. It's something that I never grew up with, but I think that there is power in just learning how to deal with your emotions, how to meditate, and how to just have holistic ways to deal with things that are in your life. Because I feel like challenges and stresses will always come, but it's just figuring out how you can deal with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've always been a believer that, what I go through doesn't it matter nearly as much as how I handle it. And when I started just sort of, for me, a lot of it was psychological. I agree with you about yoga and fitness and everything else. That's been huge, for me. But also in terms of just how I process, what I see, what happens, I learned the value of just staying calm no matter what, just believing in the power of the universe or whatever it is, or as some people might say, my Christian friends say, let go and let God. I kind of do that. I kind of just say, I got this. I'm gonna figure it out. It's gonna work out. And that helps a lot. That helps a lot in terms of remaining calm. It's sort of my own meditative process or part of my process. And it almost seems like anybody who wants to be normal in this crazy world, you have to have some sort of process you go through that'll help you achieve that inner peace, right? To help you get away from these drugs they want to pump you with, and all these other crazy things they want to do. And it seems like yoga kind of allows for that. Because I'm gonna tell you the truth, I can't really see. I want you to help me with this. Educate me, please. When I see people do yoga, it doesn't. It makes me think about Tai Chi. It looks like people are just making these moves, and I don't know what that means. Or I'll see people in yoga just doing these stretches, and you showed me a couple of the stretches, and I couldn't do them because I was fat and they were hard. But still, it just didn't seem like exercise to me. Like, how does yoga help people actually lose weight? Just for example.
Well, for example, yoga can help you lose weight just from the consistency of a practice, number one, but some of the poses that are within yoga. So holding a static position, or if you're in a yoga class that is flow. So I really just think that the consistent movement is what can contribute to weight loss. But one of the number one and surprising ways that you can lose weight also is because it starts to make you think about the way you're eating. So it's like a self-evaluation of other things that are in your life. So you have the physical benefits of moving your body, but then also the awareness of thinking about what you're eating and putting it to your body, and just other holistic practices that usually go hand in hand with yoga.
Hmm. Interesting, interesting. So you're saying that the weight loss comes from just sort of self-awareness, like sort of paying attention to your overall lifestyle. Is yoga more spiritual or is it more physical? What would you say?
I think it can be either. It really can be what you need it to be. So when I started practicing yoga, it was purely a physical practice and to relieve tension and just have that what they call yoga high. But then after that, it became different for me and became more of a spiritual practice. So yeah, I think it just depends on what you're looking for. I think that yoga has a way of making you feel whole, no matter what it is, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's spiritual. So just trying it out to see if it's a fit for you. I think there's so many different tools, whether it's running or yoga, but I think that there's just something for everybody that can be a healthy way to start to deal with things and to just improve and better their life.
Everybody, I'm talking to Carla Watkins. Carla is the founder of yogagreenbook.com. That's yogagreenbook.com. And she's one of the Black women out here that's spreading the gospel about yoga and what Black folks need to do. And I like what I hear. I think I think we need to expand our horizons. You know, we don't do enough. You know, we write certain things off as like, oh, that's what white people do. You know, Black people don't do yoga. Black people don't play hockey. Black people don't play golf. Black people don't, you know, and I think that's so limiting. I think we miss a lot of opportunities that way. I got a question for you then. Why do you think Black people don't do yoga very much or as much as we should?
I think there are a couple of reasons. I think one thing is the media, just especially in the past, is starting to change, especially if you're on Instagram and following any yogis. But the media really has shown yoga to be a white thin female, a white thin woman. So I think just because of that, it can have the image that it's not for us, but that's not true. So the deeper that I've been in yoga, I see so many Black women, so many Black men practicing yoga, and I think that's a powerful thing. Another thing that has prevented some in our community from doing yoga is thinking that there's some type of conflict with religion. So that's one thing that I have commonly heard is that there's a conflict with religion, with Christianity, with other denominations. And I feel, and just from everything that I read, that there's not a conflict and that yoga can be whatever you want it to be. So there definitely are chants and things that are rooted in Hinduism, but at the same time, you don't have to practice that. And I also know people and the philosophy of the African Kemetic yoga. So that's another style of yoga that it doesn't have to be rooted in Hinduism. So just like the deeper that you go and the more you know about it, you just know that there doesn't necessarily have to be any conflict with yoga, with religion, unless you want there to be.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, you know, I'm going to show. I got your site up here, yogagreenbook.com, and I love this image. This is you doing your thing. Do you see that?
Oh,
Look at that. Wow. So you're now. What city were you in when you took this picture?
that was in New York. So that's one city I just have barely scratched the surface in. So any recommendations, I'm open to taking them. But yes, that was when we were in New York for a weekend or two.
Ah, okay, okay. And it looks like you allow people at yogagreenbook.com to do a 30-day free trial on the site so they can check it out to see if they like it. Um,
Yes, definitely. Just to see if yoga is a good fit for you.
nice. And so you have yoga instructors that teach classes on Yoga Greenbook. Is that correct?
Yes, that's exactly right. So we have about 10 instructors that are teaching on the site, and we're even branching off to include more things wellness. So you see vegan grocery shopping. There is also Jordan, who is doing hip mobility drills. He's a physical trainer. So really just wanting to make it inclusive because the most important thing is really bringing wellness to the Black community. So yoga is what has worked for me, and we have many.
So, so Carla, you know, one thing I want to ask you about, you know, is the fact that, in the African American community, we know that there are health issues, right? We know that people are dying from all kinds of stuff that's preventable. It's kind of crazy we're dying from all these preventable diseases that come from not just what kind of food we eat, but also lifestyle, things like that. When you see kind of what's happening in the African American community, what do you think we're missing when we don't consider options like yoga and just that sort of overall healthier lifestyle?
I think it's just the awareness that we just need to have the awareness. So heart disease and type 2 diabetes are things that really are affecting my family and things that I've been thinking about for a while just because of that. So I think it's just the awareness of knowing that there are different tools that we can use, whether it is yoga, whether it is running or whatever, and then also just having more information about nutrition. I think it's just something that I didn't necessarily know until a few years ago. And it's just something that we need to continue to spread the awareness about of some of the different options that we can use within our community.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think, I think that more people should, kind of expand our horizons. I think as Black people, kind of seems like we sort of pick things that we're just sort of used to, food that we're used to eating, sports we're used to playing, and it's or places we're used to going, and we don't, push that boundary. And if what and you and your husband, who happens to be my brother, so she is family. I want to make sure that's clear. But one thing you all did was you all were digital nomads for a year. I know that's a little side note, but I was curious about that. Like, so what's that been like? To sort of move away, because you were anchored in the corporate plantation. Like, you were there, you were doing well, you were making your money, and you left that behind so that you could, live in different cities for 2 weeks at a time. And you did that for a while. How long were you on the road? Was it about a year?
Right. It was a year before we decided that we wanted to make it our permanent lifestyle, basically. So right now, June 1st is 2 years since we left Chicago.
Wow. And how many cities have you lived in, or how many cities did you live in during that first year of kind of being on the road?
Oh, wow. Over 15 cities. So different cities within Europe, London, Paris, Budapest, 3 cities in Italy, Madrid, Barcelona, and several more. So the list goes on and on. It was definitely a great experience mainly the main thing that stood out is experiencing different cultures. I didn't realize how many stereotypes I had before I started traveling.
Really?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So would you say that you lived in more than what, 12 cities, more than 15 cities during that first year?
Yes. I would say more than 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, most Black people don't go to more than, I mean, most of us, that have come from regular families, growing up, I mean, it was a big deal for us to drive down the road from Louisville to Cincinnati, let alone living in other countries and things like that. I think people are missing a lot when they don't get passports and they don't get out here and see the world. And it doesn't seem like it costs a lot of money. I know you all traveled on a pretty reasonable budget. It wasn't like you were out spending money like crazy. You made plans to make the transition. What was that transition like, going from the corporate plantation to just sort of this other unstructured but yet freer kind of lifestyle? What was that like for you psychologically? Because I know you're an engineer, and I'm curious to know, did that affect you? Like, how did that feel to kind of go from structure to no structure?
It was really challenging for me because I have loved stability. And that was one of the reasons that I studied electrical engineering, and I was working for the federal government, which is always seen as being really secure. And on top of that, was working for over 10 years as an electrical engineer, moved to different positions and cities, but was still pretty much doing the same thing. So I was really comfortable. I was comfortable with the salary that I was making right before I decided to quit, and we decided to move. So it was a really difficult process, but I knew that it was something that I wanted to do. And just the fact that for over a year, much longer than that, really. I had always envisioned quitting and what that would be like, what I would say, and everything like that. And I'm sure others can relate to that, of just having that moment of what it would be like to quit. So, yeah, it was really challenging, but I definitely was planning and stacking money for over a year, just thinking about the possibility of what if one day I did quit my job. But transitioning into entrepreneurship was really hard. It's still hard. I work more hours now than I do when I was corporate, but it's the best decision ever because I'm controlling what I want to do and doing something I'm truly passionate about, and not something that I'm just told to do. So it's just really, really challenging, but it was completely worth it.
Yeah, it's almost like when you get that taste of freedom, the idea of like going to work and doing corporate stuff is almost depressing. You
Yeah.
know, it's almost like somebody telling you to go back to jail. I mean, no disrespect to people who are still in that world. I feel for you, but I think it's so rewarding when you seek out a better world and find out that it actually exists. Because I didn't know. I mean, there was something about it, something about this fact that this was something I had never done, and I was it was something I'd never done, and but I knew other people had done it, but I could not see myself doing it. Like I could not see myself living a life where I didn't have to get up and go to work every day. It just seemed like, whoa, like I don't that can't be me. That's for other people, you know. And then when you finally get out there, you're like, oh my God, it's like breathing for the first time, because you're like, wow, I get to really live. My life is literally 3 times longer now because I've cut the fat from it. I've cut out all the wasted time that I would have spent doing something that I didn't even want to be doing. But that's the majority of your life. Most of us spend the majority of our waking hours, or a large percentage of them, doing something we wouldn't be doing if it wasn't for the money. That's kind of a scary thought.
It is. I
Yeah.
know the feeling. I can definitely relate to the comfort that it brings, and just knowing that you're going to have that steady paycheck. But even that's not even always certain. So it's just finding what you're passionate about. If it is corporate, then keep doing it. But if you're really just not happy day after day, year after year, you may turn into what I was feeling. And I was just felt like a zombie, literally just getting on the train, going through the motions and being there all day, and then being too tired to do anything when I got home,
Mm.
the things that I really wanted to do. I was too tired to even do it.
Oh wow. Well, I'm very happy for you now. So you got away from the corporate plantation. You've seen the world. You're doing something that you love. You're probably on your way to making more money than you ever made in a corporate job. And once you get a good business and you find a good business model, it's very easy to go, for your income to suddenly skyrocket, which I think is really exciting. But it's almost like once you get out there, the skyrocketing income is not really the big deal anyway. you know, that's not really the driving force in my mind. Like I'm not really somebody who says, "Oh yeah, it's all the money. The money is what does it." No, the money is kind of like this extra benefit that that kind of supplements everything else about the life. I don't know about you, but it almost feels like I feel like I get a paycheck every day, even if I'm not actually making any money. Do you
Yes.
feel that way sometimes?
Yes, I feel like that completely.
Okay.
Mainly because I'm passionate about the mission of spreading yoga, and that's enough for me. So it's just like I want to have enough to be able to sustain that and help, and just be able to reach more people. So that's my main goal with any revenue that's generated, is being able to reach more people to spread the power of yoga, and then also donating to individuals and organizations that have the same mission.
Wow, wow. So let me ask you this. So as as you started Yoga Green Book, and okay, so yoga was your passion. And by the way, everybody, this is Carla Watkins. Her website is yogagreenbook.com. So one of the missions that she has is spreading yoga awareness to as many people as possible. A lot of the people that follow her happen to be people of color, but you don't have to be a person of color. I believe she's a good person that just wants everybody to be healthy. Also, by the way, if you haven't signed up for Black Enough, Make sure you sign up for blackenough.com. That's our social media platform. And so the question for today on this shirt is, are you black enough? And I think you know what it means. It's kind of a cool way to express yourself. So Carl, let me ask you. I'm really stuck. I'm really sort of intrigued by what you were talking about earlier about sort of going from, you know, that structured 9 to 5 lifestyle to this sort of life where suddenly, you know, there is no 9 to 5 to go to every day. You're doing what you want. You know, you're not living in one city anymore. You're living kind of all over the place. You know, and things are not as clear as they were before. And you mentioned, what's fascinating to me though is that you mentioned that, you know, the anxiety thing was kind of a tough hurdle for you to jump. And so I'm almost wondering, and I'd really like for you to see if you can help me explain this or understand this, you know, but it almost sounds like going from that structure to non-structure would add to the anxiety. But it almost seems like doing yoga in the process of going through all that actually led to a net reduction in your anxiety level relative to the past. Like, can you kind of talk me through that? Like, did like losing all the structure, like, sort of spike your anxiety a little bit? Like, how did you kind of process that?
You know, it seems like it would, because I always had the plan, whether I was in college, after college, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And I thought that that would reduce my anxiety instead of create it, which was my situation. But surprisingly, my anxiety went down. And I think the main reason is because I didn't realize how much I was changing to try to fit into a box that I wasn't supposed to be in. So I think just almost impersonating somebody during the day, or having to feel like I had to wear my hair a certain way, or talk a certain way, or enjoy certain things, and just all of this stuff that was necessary, or I felt was necessary for the whole corporate climb, something in that was creating my anxiety. So then now, even though there was all of this uncertainty, even though there still is day to day of what's going to happen with the business, I can truly be myself. I can truly say what I want to say, do what I want to do, dress and style my hair however I want without feeling like I need to be somebody else. So I think because of that, that is what helped reduce my anxiety, because I'm happy and just empowered to be who I am unapologetically.
You know, that's really fascinating. So it almost seems like, I guess, you know, the theory I'm formulating here is that if you ever want to be depressed and anxious, you know, some of the keys to becoming more anxious or more unhappy with life is not being true to yourself. It almost seems like that's what it comes to. You know, giving up control, um, you know, not being who you want to be, you know, pretending to be somebody else, becoming a square peg in a round hole. And so what I'm really calculating here, based on what you told me, is that, you know, that transition from the corporate space to this life of freedom and a lack of structure. On one hand, there is an increase in anxiety that comes from the fact that there is no structure. Some of us like to have people tell us what to do. Some of us like to know that we're with an established institution that has an established protocol. And so I can imagine that would cause, for some people, I've seen people leave the plantation and freak out because they can't handle not having someone tell them what to do. You know, they can't handle not having orders and structure, you know, but it seems like the freedom overwhelmed the anxiety that came from the lack of structure, that the freedom reduced the anxiety tremendously and allows you, you know, because you get to be who you want to be, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, you know, there's not, and I think about this, I think about my own journey in the same way. You know, I think when I got to the point where I could no longer tell people exactly what I did for a living, that was really weird. And it made it hard to quantify what I'd actually accomplished. Like, what am I? You know, am I a professor? Am I a lawyer? Am I a businessman? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, we're used to saying I'm in this profession, but I got to the point where I was like, people would say, well, what do you do? And I'd say, I don't know. You know, like I talk on the internet, I write articles sometimes, I write books, I give speeches, you know, but I didn't know exactly what I was. You know, I mean, I figured it out a little bit, but it was a little bit strange, you know, and it almost made you feel like well, wait, I could have been uneducated and not known who I was. You know, like, why did I go to school all those years? Why did I work hard to get these credentials? But it's almost like at the same time, when you're really free and you're really doing something you're passionate about and you're able to make a living at it, it's like you're suddenly like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is where I'm supposed to be. Like, this is the
Right.
suit I'm supposed to be wearing. I was supposed to wear the monkey suit. I was supposed to be wearing my birthday suit. You know, and that's how you feel, like you really feel like you're in your own skin, like that, like you got a
Right.
suit that fits you like a glove, and you're like, I am. And now I just kind of know what I do. You know what I am, professionally, I am Boyce Watkins. Like, that's it. I am Dr. Boyce Watkins. That is my job, is to be Dr. Boyce Watkins. And it's great because I know I'll never get fired, because can't nobody else do this job but me, you know. And it's amazing.
Right. So how was that transition for you? How was that transition from being a professor to full-time entrepreneurship, doing your own thing?
It was hard at first, financially. Lawrence, your husband, was, with me through the process. He was the first full-time team member I ever had, in the company. And, it was tough because we were guessing at a lot of things on how to do certain things, and that we just didn't know how to do, and we'd say, okay, well, I think if we do it this way, it's going to lead to a certain result, and it didn't, and it wouldn't work out, and you'd waste a bunch of money. So you had to go back to the drawing board and try again. And so I would say that, the best thing that really worked for us was we would just go back and just figure it out, try something different, try it again in a different way, and just keep kind of improving each time. And then, it was also, it was really scary, because I stand up to racism in a lot of ways. I stood up to white supremacy on my job. I didn't like it. And it wasn't popular to do that at the time. I didn't, there wasn't a lot of support for that kind of thing. And I remember just kind of my recurring fear was that I would have to go back and beg these people to let me back in. Like, I left the house, I went out into the wilderness, and I can't survive, so I'm begging you to let me back in. So you can just say I told you so. That was a really scary thought that I had, and that's what really motivated me to keep trying harder and to keep figuring it out. Because I just kind of figured out, I said, well, if white men can do it, then I can too. Also, as a professor, it's really hard to make tenure. Tenure is where you get a lifetime job and financial security and all that. And I said, well, it's also really hard to become an entrepreneur and create a successful business. The difference is that if I worked hard and made tenure, I would only have so many benefits. They would define like how much I'd make in terms of income and all that. But if I succeeded as an entrepreneur, then the sky was the limit. I could do whatever I want, you know. And so I said, so it's really a matter of picking my poison, picking my challenge. Both of them are going to be hard. Both of them are going to be really difficult. Which one am I going to pick? So I picked this challenge also because I had more freedom. It wasn't, in academia, I felt that my success level was constrained by what those white men in power thought about me. And I knew at the end of the day, they probably weren't going to like me very much. I'm just not a likable person to a racist. A racist person would have a hard time getting along with me. And so I left and did my own thing, and it was very scary and it was very hard. And I never had any money. I was spending all my money trying to build my business, but I never had more fun in my life. Even when we had no money, it was awesome to be able to see my brother every day and hang out with him all the time and go around the world with him. I mean, he and I have gone all over the place. We've been on 1,000 airplanes and summits and just all kinds of adventures that we never would have had if we were just a couple of guys just sitting in our corporate office. So it's been the best journey in the world. I have zero regrets. It's really been a lot of fun.
And he still loves working with you too. Like
Yeah,
all
yeah.
these years later, nothing's changed.
Yeah, I like working with him also. I'm really proud of him, and it's really good. It's really nice to have relatives you can depend on. That really believe in the mission, that really have your back. And I think that with him, with the bond we formed when we were children, it just stayed as we grew up. When he was born, I think I was 12, 13 years old, and I think I was 12. I just turned 12, and it's like I remember him as a little baby in first grade and third grade and fifth grade and 10th, eighth grade and all the way up, and so it just kind of translated naturally into what we do as businessmen. and it's just it's I mean it's like the best journey that a life could ever be. Like I'm thinking, like I really look at it now. I'm like, it's sad that people are not introduced to this earlier because they don't know that you're missing out on life.
Right.
And that's how I feel about it. Like I feel like I look at I'm thinking, wow, I'm really living. I get to spend, say, 14 hours a day just living. Whereas if I was working for 8 or 10 of those hours, I would spend that time working or at a job. you know so I recommend it for everybody. I think people should just gear their kids for this kind of thing. Now you're gonna have, if and when you and Lawrence have a child, which I'll let you decide if you want to tell people when or if it's going to happen. But is that something? Is that like how would you sort of approach, talking to a child about sort of those professional choices that they can make? Like, what would you end up saying to your child?
We don't know yet. That's actually something that we're thinking about now, since we will be having a child sooner than later. And we just are thinking about what we really want to share and what's the most important thing to pass on to our children. And with entrepreneurship, that's something that's new to me. I actually was not familiar with the concept of entrepreneurship and the possibility that it could be in my life until, I mean, maybe 5 years ago. And that sounds, kind of sad because I'm new to it and just wasn't familiar with it being an option. But it's something that we want to introduce. Well, definitely the concept of entrepreneurship, but more than anything, we just want our child or children to be aware of what they like to do and what they're passionate about, and not just try to fit into societal expectations.
Mm. Yeah, I almost think with kids, it's a matter of just showing them all the options.
Hmm.
Just give them a broad range of possibilities. I don't think it's a matter of telling the child, oh, if you get a job, you're lame. No, but I think it's okay to tell them, like, look, what you do, I don't know how, I don't know if I can possibly, I don't know how easy it is for me to process things like gender fluidity. Like if you want to be a girl, you just become a girl, or if you want to be a boy, you just become a boy. I have a harder time processing that, but I can certainly process professional fluidity, where you just say, look, I'm not going to box myself into anything. I'm going to make sure my bills get paid so I can focus on living my life. It's not going to be the other way around. I'm not going to sacrifice my life just to get the bills paid. I'll get the bills paid. Once the bills are paid, then you focus on being who you are and living the life you want to live and finding the happiness that's going to fill your heart. And that's what you do. We put too much emphasis on what you do for a living, for a profession. Why is it that at a cocktail party, the first thing people talk about is what you do for a living, and half those people don't even like the damn job? Maybe that's one of the reasons why we have people that get depressed a lot of times, is because you're spending the bulk of your time focusing on something that you don't even enjoy. Not just in terms of going to work every day, but even when you're away from work, they say, well, what do you do? Oh, I work at Walmart in the processing department, and you know what I mean? We processed 500 paper clips last Tuesday. Like whatever. Like it's like that's not really your passion. So why would you be sitting and discussing your passion? But that's what we do. We talk about what we do for a living, what our profession is. If you ask somebody like, so how you been? The things they tend to talk about are like maybe where they live, who they're dating, and what they're doing professionally. Those are like the three things people talk about. Like, yeah, I'm in a relationship, or I just got married. I work at so and so, and I just moved to Southern California, right? So to me, I figured out that quality of life tends to be measured by those three things. So if you want to have a high quality life, focus on each of those three areas and make those decisions carefully. And next thing you know, you're happy.
Right. I agree.
All right. So let me ask you the last question. Yoga Green Book. So you're going through the world spreading the gospel of yoga, helping people of color find their way to the greatness that is yoga, the greatness that is eating healthy, the greatness that is wellness and fitness. So does yogagreenbook.com cover? So you said it covers more than yoga. So what other areas does it go into outside of just yoga?
Right. Outside of yoga, there are videos that talk about breathing techniques, which can still fall under the topic of yoga. There's also meditation on there, which I still consider related to yoga as well. But outside of that, there are videos about veganism, just anybody that's interested in having a plant-based lifestyle, and also knowing the difference between plant-based and veganism. So there's a video that talks about that. And fitness in general, we brought on a certified physical trainer that is talking about physical fitness in general and has some hip mobility and mobility videos that are on the site. So we're branching out, and what we do is we actually branch out and have new videos based on member requests. So we really listen to what the members are wanting, and we create videos based on that. And that's why there's more variety coming to the site.
Wow. Well, I love it, and I'm super excited about it. And I have a growing appreciation for what you do, because even today I was just at physical therapy, and I was amazed at all the things that my physical therapist was able to help me figure out about my legs. My legs are the things that I'm always trying to work on. And he was able to explain certain things that I had no clue, like what was wrong with certain stuff. And so I encourage everybody to pay attention, get fit. Just do a little bit every day. That's how I lost a lot of weight. It's just, I get up and I'll run 2 or 3 miles and whatever. But even if you're walking or whatever, just be fit. Make sure you're eating right, and expand your mind. Like, don't get caught up in, we ain't slaves no more. We ain't got to live and eat like slaves. We can actually be free. And I love what you're doing. So everybody, if you want to find out more about what Carla's doing, go to yogagreenbook.com. Now, Yoga Green Book, that name came from what? Tell us where that name came from, Green Book.
Yes, it came from the Negro Motorist Green Book that was used during Jim Crow era to help travelers navigate a safe path. So it was a directory that listed lodging, gas stations, everything, just to keep Black travelers safe on the road.
All right. So Yoga Green Book has a history. It's a secret message to the Underground Railroad to fitness for Black people. So
yes, navigating to safe spaces within yoga.
Yes, there you go. All right. So if you all want to learn more about how to get started, go to yogagreenbook.com. That's yogagreenbook.com. She has a free fitness guide, which is at guide.yogagreenbook.com/flexibility, right?
Yes. That's it. We
So,
have it this month. So we are promoting the guide. We all need a little bit more flexibility in our life. So I think it's a great guide to get started.
So that's guide.yogagreenbook.com/flexibility. And those of you who are asking about my shirt, Are You Black Enough? Blackenough.com is our new social media platform for people who are sick of Facebook censoring you and putting you in Facebook jail and taking your data and telling you that you're too black for Facebook. Well, we invite your blackness. So if you want to be black enough, join us at blackenough.com. The conversation's popping. We got thousands and thousands of members, and it's a great place to go if you want a good Black conversation where you won't get censored. So check it out. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the share button, and the thumbs up button if you're on YouTube. And until we meet again, stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. Thanks a lot, Carla.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. I'll see you soon.